Welcome to another episode of Tech Lounge, a podcast where we discuss the ever-changing world of technology. And now your host, Dan Duran.
All right. And we're live, guys. Welcome to the Tech Lounge, episode number 6. Can you believe it, Andrew?
That's
6
unbelievable.
already. Woo! Number 6. We have learned so much on this journey with our podcast, and we're extremely happy you are here. I have 2 great announcements. So the first one is the Tech Lounge is on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Amazon Music, Audible, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, and all major podcast platforms. What a big step.
Fantastic. Absolutely.
Getting big, putting our word out there. And the second one is we are so happy here that we don't have to manage any of the technology. We have Gladstone Nyama support controlling all the dials on the back room. So thank you so much, Gladstone, for taking care of things while we talk to our guests directly. And one last thing, I have my co-host extraordinaire, Andrew Summerton, CEO of BeWire Technologies and Rhino Cybersecurity. He takes care of all of your comments, all of your questions, all of your love, your little hearts. Send them our way. This show will be very insightful for you. So let's get on with the show. So I hope you enjoy the Tech Lounge. Sit back and relax. So this week in the Tech Lounge, we have Jason Eckert. He is the Dean of Technology at Tradeoffs College. Jason, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
We're very, very glad to have you. So we've known Jason for quite some time, maybe 6-7 years, Jason.
Yeah, that's all right.
Yes, and there is a little bit of a backstory to this. So maybe, Andrew, you can talk about Rhino's cybersecurity experience with Tradeoffs College.
Yeah, no, it's been a wonderful journey, and you know what, Jason is so happy to have you with us, Jason. I mean, your wealth of knowledge and experience as a Dean of Technology is incredible. So it's a pleasure for us as well, because we're going to get a lot from this, and I'm sure so is our followers. So we've actually had quite a few interns come from Tradeoffs as employees of ours now. So I would say probably 25%, maybe even 30, as high as that high, have actually come and stayed with us in our organization. So as you know, we run BeWire Technologies and Rhino Cybersecurity. So a beautiful merge, and the skill set that Tradeoffs sends our way is incredible. And like I said, majority of them stayed with us. So, I mean, that's kudos to you, Jason, and getting them ready to come on board with us. So thank you for that.
Love to hear that. That's great.
So Jason, where do I start, man? I checked out your website. Oh boy, you have 20 books published, a slew of certifications, decades of experience in teaching, all kinds of levels. The level of technology that you have and expertise is amazing, man. So kudos to you. And so tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, what's your passion?
Oh, well, it's pretty easy. My passion is mostly computer related. You know, I've been in this industry since hard drives looked like the transmission from a 57 Chevy. And, you know, I've been a programmer and a sysadmin for, forever, really. And now they're kind of merged. You know, we call people like that DevOps or site reliability engineers, but it's the same.
Cyber reliability engineers. I like that title.
That fix all the problems in the cloud.
We'll talk about the cloud and how everything is moving to the cloud as well, right?
Yeah.
Just during your introductions there, Jason, I don't want to cut you off. We got so many people reaching out and saying hello. So we got McGill, Boris, Kevin, Eduardo, all reaching out, sending love, sending hi. Thank you. They're really enjoying the top so far. So we'll try and keep you guys educated and informed. So thanks for joining us. Sorry, Jason, to cut you off. Go ahead, jump in.
No, that's okay. That's okay. I think Dan was
yeah.
Talking.
So tell us a little bit about that transition, IT, cybersecurity, and how both of the disciplines. First of all, what are the differences and what are the similarities, and how everything is merging together?
Well, yeah, I guess I should talk about something from like almost 30 years ago. I actually have a book in my classroom, and it's from Wiley. It's called Security in the 90s, and it's the
Yes.
early 90s. And I bring it out just to show students every so often. And the first comment is, "Wow, that's pretty thin." You know, because it is. It's very thin. It's about that thick, right? And it doesn't have much in it. I mean, cryptography was in its infancy back then. Most
Yes.
people didn't really care too much about security, and
Right.
viruses back then didn't do what they do today. They spread, which was disastrous on very slow ancient networks, but that was about it.
Right.
Maybe they might have deleted a file. Boo-hoo. They could steal your information or encrypt it and require a ransom like it does, like most of it.
Right.
Most of them do today, right? So, but what's happened over the last 30 years is, you know, we've relied on a lot more technology, and it's amplified now since
Yes.
we rely on a lot of cloud services. And that's really where you see things like the SolarWinds attack that most people reference. I mean,
Right.
if your company buys SolarWinds products, well, you trusted that company. You probably bought
Yeah.
a lot of products over years, and that trust can be destroyed with one hack.
Yes,
Absolutely.
it's amazing how all of our private or everybody's information is online. It doesn't matter if you're, like Facebook, or even if you don't want to be online, you're still online. Like somehow, somewhere, there's information about you online.
Yeah.
It's a scary situation, right?
Yeah, and now it's more security nowadays. You have to not just worry about, hey, can someone access things they shouldn't access? Can we find out if someone's accessing something they shouldn't access so that we can detect it as a security breach and respond to it and make changes? It's more, do we trust these other organizations we're using software that we depend on from? Because if they get attacked with a supply chain attack like SolarWinds, then
Yes.
we're vulnerable as well. So it's a massive topic today in every section of IT. So what's happened over the last 30 years is security went from this, niche kind of afterthought that would be summarized in a book that thick to something that's part of everyone's job role in IT. So you have to be thinking about security in everything you do in IT. And it doesn't matter if you're a small company or a big company where maybe they have a security team. You don't have to be part of that security team to be immersed in security. You're going to be required to do most of your job with security, and then the team will have certain job roles like, audits and penetration testing and stuff like that, and incident response that you'll have to work with them very closely with.
Absolutely.
To that point, actually, Jason, Diego just sent a question over. It says, do most students have some type of history in the IT, industry? And are they younger? Are they older? I mean, I'm not reading exactly how he says it here, but basically, IT history, do all types of students, young and old. So basically, what type of students are you getting actually because of the change in the last 30 years have you actually identified?
The types of students we get have always been varied. And in any college, you're going to get students that come out of high school. You're going to get students who maybe work in an industry that they don't like and they want to switch to a different industry. And IT is a great industry to switch to because it's everywhere and there's massive numbers of jobs in it. And it's not a fad. It's going to be here forever, and it's only going to grow. There could be people who are younger, older. It's a wide range, and it's always been a wide range. That hasn't changed over the last 30 years. So I think
I was going to say to your question. I mean, basically what you were saying about the book from the 90s, how it wasn't a major concern, and it's such a prevalent thing now for everybody, whether you're in the industry, whether you're not, whether you're a small business, a large business, whether you're in the security field, IT, or if you're actually just working as as an individual in a company. Security is huge. So that factor is to Diego's question, is exactly that. It's people have to be adapting to accommodate for the new world that we're living in.
Oh yeah, 30 years ago, you'd be installing a driver and hoping that it works with Novell NetWare, and connects to the network, and maybe soldering a new capacitor on a power supply that died. You don't do that today. It's all abstract.
Right.
Absolutely.
Drivers are taken care of for us most of the time, and we have to worry about all this other stuff. So yeah, it's evolved quite a bit. It's nothing like it was 30 years ago, and it will always.
Yeah, it's absolutely critical. And through the research, and I'm not sure if this is true or not, but if we talk about the last decade, 350% growth in open cybersecurity positions in the last decade.
Wow.
The second stat that I have here is the cybersecurity occupation hit a 0% unemployment rate in 2020 and 2021. These
Incredible.
are United States. These are from the States. These stats, but they also apply here in Canada. What do you think is happening, Jason?
So they make sense. Those numbers make sense. What's happening is as we go further and further into the future, I mean, companies need people to implement technologies, maintain technologies, support them. So that's anything from deploying desktops to servers, managing email, database servers. I mean, if a database goes down, business functionality is tremendously impacted. So you got to have a SQL admin that knows how to get that database restored from a backup really quick and fast. Because if an app is hitting that database, then the app is slow and crashing. It's the database's fault, not the app, right? So that kind of stuff I'm describing, that's functionality. That's IT functionality. And traditionally, that's what we've focused on. Jobs want, server admins, SQL admins, Exchange server admins. They want desktop deployment specialists. They want network administrators. They want, all sorts of different IT job roles. And those job roles will never go away. But what's happening now is they want those job roles with more security. So that's where you're seeing these security roles. You've seen organizations where you might have existing IT staff that aren't very comfortable with the security stuff because they've been working maybe for a decade there and they've never had to do it. So there opens up another job role for someone who has that security knowledge to join that team. So they'll be doing some regular IT, but they'll be the one that initiates a lot of the change processes. They'll be the one that implements, an audit process, or if we have to deploy a new app that's developed internally, we have to do a penetration test on it to validate that it's compliant with, what our legal department requires, right?
So Jason,
might not know that, right?
in regards to
absolutely.
exactly what you're based on what you're saying, actually, and we actually just got another question pop up. So, as the changing landscape of technology is always changing, do your courses change dramatically year over year? I mean, how does that look? Because the landscape is changing.
Wow, that's a really good question.
Yeah, I've been changing courses all year long. Experienced a big upgrade from versions of, say, Microsoft software from 2016 to 2019 across the board. I've updated our Linux courses to be more modern and relate to the new certification exam objectives and all sorts of stuff. I mean, things are upgrading all the time, but so does the emphasis. A good example of that is the course I'm teaching on Monday, which is a wireless infrastructure and design course. 10 years ago, it was a BlackBerry Enterprise server course.
BlackBerry.
Then it became called Enterprise Smartphone Administration, half BlackBerry, half ActiveSync. And now it's more wireless infrastructure. So things move over time, and we have to keep up. That's one of the things that we try to do very carefully. We try to make sure that we're our course to match what the industry is hiring for, what the employers want. So we ask employers, what do you want? Right? We have these little mini packs. We call them up. We have a close relationship with them. And even when it comes to our security course, security and ethical hacking, they tell us what should be in the course. We don't say, well, we're going to have a big section on forensics. They say, we don't care about forensics. That's farmed out 99% of the time. We care about this. We care about them being able to do a penetration test and a proper vulnerability assessment and know how to categorize it by service, because we don't have to do, because that has to be handled by the team, right?
Yeah,
and you're on the right track. So, in just a little backstory on that as well, we, as a cybersecurity company, Rhino Cybersecurity, we have a little bit of a say on that, because I remember you contacting us and saying, "Hey guys, what is going on in the real life? Here it is. I'm a teacher. I go by the books, all of that stuff, but I also want to know what's going on out there. So I'm reaching out to you, Rhino Cybersecurity, to see what you're seeing in the field. So maybe I can take some of that stuff and put it in my programs, right?"
Yeah, actually, your input and other companies' inputs are more important than the book in our minds, and always have been. So, there's always a textbook and a course, and they're very good. They cover a lot of the theory that might be tested on an associated certification exam, and that's kind of important in industry and IT, especially for cybersecurity. But beyond that, I mean, there's parts that we de-emphasize because they're not very useful, right? And then we add extra stuff. So there's lots of extras that we add to our cybersecurity courses.
That's incredible. That's good.
A lot more extras than are in the textbook. That's for sure.
So actually, Jason, I mean, we're getting questions here like crazy, and they're all really good questions. So being pertaining to, so Andrea's asking, how long is the program? Or is that a loaded question? Because obviously, I'm sure there's many. Or how does that work as far as the program process?
Oh, well, we have a bunch of different programs. The general rule is the longer you're in school, the further you can go in IT. But there's that balance. Like, you don't want to be in school forever, because eventually, you have to go get a job, make money, and buy computing equipment and stuff like that, right? And in IT, there's one rule: your computer should always be worth more than your car. Okay, never.
Yes.
Dan believes that. Just like Dan believes that rule. There's no question. Always wanting a new computer.
I have a supercomputer in here. My latest Lenovo P14 with AMD. I don't know how many. I don't know how many cores does it has. I think it's 36, or I don't remember.
Can't kill a ThinkPad.
No,
that's exactly the best out there.
Yeah.
For all of you
right now.
For all of you that are just joining us, this is the Tech Lounge, episode number 6, and we have Jason Eckert, Dean of Technology from Tradeoffs College. Just listening, we are having a great conversation. I believe we have a few other questions as well.
I should probably answer your first one, though.
Which one is the first one? Sorry, we just digressed a little bit.
Yeah. The courses, exactly.
Yeah. So how long are that? Well, the longer you're in school, the better. Our longest program is a year and a half, so 18 months plus an internship on the end of that. So 4-month internship. And if you're in that program, you're going to be not just doing cybersecurity for 18 months, because cybersecurity is toothless unless you have administration knowledge. So unless you know how to manage networks and servers and clients and troubleshoot and deploy and automate, you're not going to be able to do much in cybersecurity. So most cybersecurity programs always start with an IT foundation. And so most of our program is IT foundation. And the more IT foundation you have, the more you can apply to the cybersecurity you learn.
Right.
And so look for a longer program if you can than a shorter one. We do have cybersecurity in some of our 12-month programs as well, but I would always encourage people to take the longer one if you can. I mean, there's a trade-off, right? You have to be in school longer and less, time to go out and work, blah, blah, blah. But the longer you're in, the more prerequisite, the IT functionality prerequisites that you're going to have that make the cybersecurity a lot more fun and a lot more applicable. So if you've never taken like a database course or an email server course or a wireless infrastructure course, applying cybersecurity to that is close to impossible, or even understanding those areas of cybersecurity, right? Because you have to have that fundamental knowledge, right? But our program has everything. We have all 6 pillars of IT, and it ends with cybersecurity in there, and it makes sense. People go, oh yeah, I remember this. So this is how you would secure, a database server. This is how you would secure a wireless network with 802.1x, or
exactly AC or D or X.
Yeah.
So and that's the foundation is the IT. You need to know your computers, right? You need to know devices, hardware, software. You also need to know the network aspect of it, and then the stepping stone over that would be cybersecurity. Is that correct?
Yeah, cybersecurity is an integral part of all of those technologies. So even if you're taking a course on how to implement a certain server, there's going to be security topics in that course. Every single IT course has got security topics woven throughout.
Absolutely.
But there's usually another course in any IT program that's focused on the cybersecurity stuff above and beyond what you'd normally have in those other courses. And that's very important. That's the kind of stuff that would allow you to apply for a job where maybe most of your role or a good chunk of your role is cybersecurity related, or maybe all of your role is cybersecurity related, and you're monitoring networks for intrusions and initiating a response mechanism, right? So you can respond to that security incident, or you're doing penetration testing most of the time, vulnerability assessments.
Yes.
Maybe you're implementing security technologies for clients at different sites and testing to make sure that they're fully functional, that they cover the scope that the client needs, a reasonable scope, right? Because you can't have perfect security, but security can be expensive if you spend too much on it. So you got to find a nice mix, right? So,
Yes.
there's a lot to security. There's the security that's part of all IT topics, and then there's the extra stuff on top of it that requires more and more IT to do more of, right?
Right. Jason, question for you in regards to that skill set. Somebody, Eduardo actually has a question. He says, and it could be just because it's a misconception, because cybersecurity and IT and technology is kind of scary to a lot of people. So this is a question: is a strong training in the area of mathematics or calculus necessary for a high level in the area of cybersecurity? So, I'll make that's what I could answer that question too, but I'll let you as the expert.
You don't need to calculate the area under a curve to do anything in cybersecurity.
Exactly.
No, that's kind of way.
So Eduardo, just to answer your question, I don't know if you heard us over our giggling and stuff. No, it's not a prerequisite or necessary by any means. So, but thank you for the question.
There's
the only math you'll need is subnetting for IP version 4. Yeah, that's it.
Yes. Exactly. Exactly. So you do that binary calculations, and that's about it, right? But it's a lot of intuition, right? It's a lot of intuition and knowing. It's a lot of knowledge. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Jason, but when you getting into cybersecurity, it's not just one thing that you need to know, but it's so many things that you have to be familiar with.
Yeah, so there's different areas of cybersecurity, right? It's a multifaceted industry or topic area.
Yeah.
Like there's cybersecurity analysis, which is basically doing penetration tests where you're attacking a system. You're called the red team, and you're attacking a system to test the defenses that you've implemented, right? And that's what ethical hackers typically do. It's what real hackers do. The only difference is an ethical hacker has permission to do it.
We do that, Jason. We're ethical.
Yes, exactly, right. If we don't have permission, then we're unethical. It's a gray area, so to say, a gray hat area.
Yes.
But or they could be doing vulnerability assessments or audits for compliance, because a lot of legal compliance now is tied to security and privacy. Privacy, of course, is not security, but it is usually under the same umbrella, and it's usually done by the same team. And so we have to work with kind of legal departments that way. That's cybersecurity analysis. Cybersecurity administration is all the stuff that you do as a normal IT person as part of your job related to security, implementing security appliances, making sure you have the right rules, making sure the data cannot leak out of your cloud.
Yes.
You implement a cloud access security broker, and that's not as easy as it sounds. And understanding data loss prevention rules and email systems so that you're not leaking credit cards and health card numbers for clients outside your organization. That's the kind of stuff that cybersecurity administrators will do, right? And anything from locking down services, making sure your attack surface is low so there's less ports exposed if someone does gain access to your network, making sure that if someone goes through for a tour, they can't just take a Raspberry Pi out of their back pocket, with a battery on it, stick it under a desk with some Velcro, and now they've got a jump box that they can access from outside the company and hack into your network. I mean, there's lots of different facets to that they can't socially engineer people, right?
Yes.
So we have to send our employees for social engineering training.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because one of the things that I wrote about on one of the posts that I had is that there is an aerospace contractor in the United States working for the National Department, right? And what the hackers were doing is actually creating a Facebook group, right? A Facebook group on yoga, right? It was a yoga Facebook group, and they were targeting employees at this contractor, right? So we were having this weekly Facebook stuff, yoga stuff. In what they were doing is sharing files with them, like Word documents and PDFs and things like that. And some of them had scripts in them to try to get them to leak information and ransomware and all of that stuff. So you can see the level of complexity in ingenuity that the hackers are using nowadays, as opposed to the old days, right? So
and we have to know that first and foremost, because IT people are the biggest target for that. Because if we can be compromised, they have access to all of the systems at an administrator level.
So Jason, to that exact point and what you're saying, and so is Dan, actually, we have another question, which is relevant. I mean, how do we keep your technology skill current? So, I mean, because of this ever-changing landscape, all these new threats, all this new technology, and you know, you're a pretty smart guy. You know, Dan's always learning. What are some maybe skill sets outside of the school, because now you've got your degree, etc. You're in the real world. Is there recommendations that you know that can help hone in those skills and keep you current, based to the question?
Well, when it comes to technology, you have to have a good computer at home, and you have to create VMs and explore new technologies and play with them. And when you have a core foundation knowledge of different areas of IT, that's easy to do. But when it comes to cybersecurity, you got to do a lot more than that. And so you got to kind of immerse yourself in the industry. You have to subscribe to podcasts like CyberWire or Risky Business or Naked Security.
The Hacker Network. That's
Darknet Diaries, Security Now. The SANS Stormcast is a good one. And you gotta keep current. It's like reading news, but for nerds, you know.
So relevant, absolutely.
Yes, and talk about the foundational certifications, because I think the certifications are also very important for continuing to grow your skills. So talk about the big three. I mean,
well, there's like cybersecurity is is an area where there's a lot of activity, and so whenever you have an area like that, you want to have a skills benchmark if you're hiring. So and certification has always been a skills benchmark that the IT industry has used. Industry certification has been around since the early days of Novell and SCO Unix.
Yes.
Microsoft was big for a long time in it. CompTIA is probably the biggest player right now, the Computing Technology Industry Association. They just released a couple new certs now. But they are well known. Like if you go into an HR department, you might see a CompTIA poster there. How did they get that poster? Well, that's what CompTIA does. They advertise themselves, right? And that's good for you. If you get CompTIA certified, you have brand recognition. They know that if there's a plus sign at the end of the certification name, it's a good thing, it's trustworthy, and that HR department will put your resume at the top of the pile. But there's other certification vendors, like there's EC Council that has the Certified Ethical Hacker. That's not as popular today as CompTIA by a long shot. CompTIA, I think, is leading the pack that way, but there's other ones as well. But CompTIA has 4 main security certifications in order. Security Plus is the bare bones security terminology and processes you have to know in any IT job. And it's the #1 security cert in the world. You got to have it, right? So it's actually, in 2019, I don't know what the 2020 numbers are, but in 2019, it was the #1 written CompTIA cert. And they have a lot of certs being written every year because of the security needs today in IT, right?
Absolutely.
And then, of course, there's cybersecurity analyst that is more for the cybersecurity administration side and response side. And there's Pen Test Plus, and then there's CASP. They're high level one where you're architecting a security strategy for a company, right?
Right.
And
everything actually you're saying right now coincides with McGill's question he had. What certifications can you get if you want to specialize in cybersecurity? So to answer that question, McGill, hopefully Jason answered that, because there's a wide range, obviously, depending what you want to
stick with one vendor. So like if we're sticking with CompTIA, which is probably the one that you'd want to go, that I would recommend, and that the industry probably, and the industry in Kitchener-Waterloo actually recommends as well if you go to the cybersecurity meetup. We're pretty big on that, but start with Security Plus. That's what you need to have to work in any IT job. But then if you want to have a cybersecurity focused job where most or all of your job is related to cybersecurity, then the next step is Cybersecurity Analyst Plus, CISA Plus. That's what companies really want you to do. If you look at what CompTIA does, they do studies twice a year, big studies, big program advisory councils, PACs, that they get industry players from all over the world, from small, medium, large companies, and they say, what has changed in the last 6 months? And then they adapt their certifications to match it. So when you write a CompTIA cert, it's always current. It's not stagnant. It's not stuff from 5 years ago. This is what people need today. And CISA Plus, I just wrote the most recent version of that not too long ago.
Really?
It was excellent. It's exactly what I'm hearing from employers. That's what they want. And so employers value it as a result. And when it changes in 6 months or a year, then it'll be revised. So Jason Plus is what you really need if you want to work in a cybersecurity job. Pen Test Plus if you want to do a lot of pen testing, maybe you work for a company that pen tests other companies. for security, and CASP only if you're in a large organization and you have worked in IT for a while and you want to, maybe you're the CISO, the person who manages the security for the entire company, right?
So I think you answered that question very, very well, as Gabriella actually has asked a similar course about individual courses or many. So I think you just addressed that one as well. So perfect.
But I would go a little farther into that, Andrew, as well. So Jason, so we have all these certifications that are kind of like in the outside world, and then we have this program at Trias College. How do you merge them both? Do you actually train people so they are better able to take those certifications? How does it work with your programs?
Like, so some courses that we teach, like we teach courses first and foremost. So I mean, if you're certified in something, it doesn't necessarily mean you know everything that the industry wants you to do, right? You know what the certification is testing you on, right? So we design courses first and foremost from a topic area. So we have a networking course. And that one networking course, which in our world is 8 weeks long, and we're not a semestered system, so 8 weeks is actually like a full semester for public colleges. It's 4 hours a day, every day, one topic at a time. So it's immersion, right? We find that works way better with technology. That course maps to 2 different certification exams. One is Network Plus from CompTIA, another one is CCNA from Cisco.
Right.
But we designed the course first and foremost.
Right.
So I love the fact. I love the fact that it's agnostic, right? Yeah. So you're not only tied into just we're going to teach you Network Plus and that's about it, but you can actually take other certifications because the learning and the content of the courses are wide enough to be able to tackle different certifications.
We need to teach what employers want first and foremost, because you can still get a job without any certifications in IT.
Well, that's funny. It's funny that you asked that question. It's funny that you said that, Jason, because the question Charles just asked this exact question. Working as a cybersecurity professional in Canada, do we need CAP?
CASP probably is what you mean?
Yes.
No. CASP is a cert that is not. If you look at the contents of that certification, you look at the objectives on CompTIA's website, CASP is a certification that tells you how to design security in an organization. And it's unrealistic that a company would hire someone out of college to design their entire security infrastructure. You got to work for a company for a decade before they trust you enough, right? And build that knowledge, and you rise up management levels into executive management. And the person in executive management, which is called the CISO, is the person who would get CASP certified.
Yeah, perfect. Right? And also for CASP, I'm not just for CASP, but you were talking about the system, for example, or the CISSP. You need to have at least 4 or 5 years of
CISSP is just like is exactly like CASP Plus. It's basically their version, that vendor's version of CASP Plus. CISP. Yes. There are different types of CISP certs out there, so you got to watch what they're doing. But most of them are managerial style stuff for a large company. If you look at what they're testing you, they're not testing you on how to respond to a security incident or even how to identify malicious traffic, or that, someone has pivoted from your RDP box and now infected 45 machines, right? That's what gets you hired in cybersecurity. Not, hey, we have these policies and procedures and standards that we need to design. That's something that we would never really cover in a lot of depth in college. We do cover it, so students are aware of it and they know that that's there. Everyone should know it. But we focus on the stuff that the employers want you to do, and that's what gets you hired. And so if you wrote a cert like CISP or a cert like CASP Plus, it's not going to help your hiring chances. They're going to say, oh, this is someone who just graduated college. This is not appropriate, right? So it kind of defeats the purpose. But if you wrote something like Security Plus or CISA Plus or Pentest Plus, and you're applying for a job where, yes, the stuff tested on that certification maps to what that job role wants you to do, which is the most important thing that we need in the industry right now.
Absolutely. and that's the critical part.
It tremendously helps your chances of getting that job. Right?
And
get a job in cybersecurity with no certification. I would say half of anyone in this industry doesn't have any certs.
Well, Charles' question earlier was, so he said, actually, he's just clarifying. I meant certified authority professional on RMF. So does that change? Can you see the bottom? I meant certified
certified
authorization
professional.
professional. Yeah.
Okay, so that's a specialized kind of
Yeah.
certification. That's, I mean, a lot of certifications are out there, and they test a certain area. So you can get certifications that are specific for federated authentication even. Well, if that's not a major part of the job role they're hiring you for, and it would have to be a large company and there's fewer jobs for those specialized roles, and they usually prefer people with a lot more experience, then it might not be something you go for. So my advice is, if you're going to spend time and effort getting certified, get certified in something that is generalistic.
Yes.
Because it'll the reason we get certified is we want to get the callbacks. We want to put our resume in 100 websites and get 50 of them calling us back, right? Well, if you have a specialized certification, you put your resume on 100 websites and you're not going to get 50 callbacks. But if you have a generalized one, you may. Right?
Well, I think that's answering the next question too. That's here. What about OSCP certification? So again, specialization, correct?
Yeah, that's
I know. Yeah. So I think the problem,
one tiny technology. Yeah, you could get certified in it, but why, right?
Exactly. So, but I think it really depends on where you are in your career path. Right?
Exactly.
So if you're just starting out, absolutely take like a plus, network plus, security plus, and then advance from there. But if you are already you have those certifications on your belt, or you have like tons of experience, let's say 10 years on IT and cybersecurity, and you know a lot of this stuff, and you are kind of, like pivoting to something more specific, then by all means, if you want to be an admin and create policies and stuff like that, you can start taking, like the CISP and all of those. But if you want to be more technical in certain technology, then you can actually pivot towards that. Is that
the reason you write a cert at that level is different than writing other certs? So like Dan was mentioning, if you're already working for a company, that's who's going to ask you to get certified in a specific technology, because they want to put on their website or talk to their clients and say, we have someone certified in this particular area. But we would never hire somebody that already has it, for this job role.
So to your point, Jason, I mean, when you're getting into this industry, anybody out there watching or interested, look more of a generic degree, get your job, and then pivot accordingly based on the needs and requirements that you're looking that your company is looking for.
Yes, something that caught my attention also, Jason, that you mentioned is when you said people with certifications, diplomas, or certificates from, let's say, trials or even certifications versus people that only have job experience. Can you tell us a little bit about the influx or the differences in salary, the differences in getting hired, all that kind of stuff? Why would a person want to pursue a career at Trials College?
Okay, so the college itself that you go to doesn't make a big difference. It's what you get out of the other end, right? Mm-hmm. So if everyone's different at Trias, what we try to do is we align ourselves very closely with the industry, because our measurement of success is whether our students get jobs, right? If our students get jobs, we've succeeded. If they pass or fail courses, we don't consider that a success on our part. We care about whether they get a job in the industry, because that's all really that matters to us. It's different in other colleges, perhaps, I don't know, but that's our measurement of success. What I would recommend people do is look at your priority. Is your priority to move on to go through a college, introduce yourself to this field, and maybe move on to a university, and then shift over here, see what you're wanting to do. If that's your priority, then look for a path that supports that. If your priority is you want to work in cybersecurity, then look at the contents of whatever program a particular college, it could be ours or otherwise, has, and say, look, is this aligned to the industry? Do some research. Reach out to people that work in cybersecurity and say, look, what do you think of this program? What do you think of that program?
100%.
And what we try to do is we try to be the college where if you did that, the person working in cybersecurity or in any IT admin job says, oh yeah, this is exactly what we want. Because we were talking to Jason 2 months ago, and you know.
Well, you know what? It's funny. It's funny that you say that, Jason, because in our industry, in our business, I mean, as we alluded to at the beginning, we bring in a lot of your students, and because they're so well trained, but they don't have all these specific skill sets. They have a generic skill set and a generic course. They come in, and we pivot as a company, and then we direct them. You know, we're very much pro education. So whether they're developers, whether it's security experts, etc., we're always advancing and honing their skills through courses, and we pay for them as a company because it benefits them and it also benefits us.
That's
so
great.
So I mean, I think it's a great point where, you know, I think what you guys want to do is get into the industry and then let your career take you to where it's going to get, you know, where it's going to take you. That's critical.
That's also part of our program design as well. Like there's trade-offs you have to make. One of the trade-offs that we always make is like we can go in more depth in certain technologies, but it's a zero-sum game. You have a program that's a certain length. Is it more important to go in depth on this technology if it's not going to lead to a job, or, you know, because anything you can go in depth on, and there's no limit to, there's nothing wrong with that. That's time well spent. But is it more important to do a different technology as well as maybe half of that?
Right.
And that combination is what an employer wants.
Absolutely.
Right? So we let the industry tell us what that is. We don't, you know, guess it. We don't do any of that. We work with industry. We work with companies, small, medium, and large, in all different parts of Ontario and Eastern Canada. And we say, look, what do you want? And tell me what your problems are. What are you hiring for? What do you want in someone for this role? And we're very specific. If you're hiring someone out of college, right, not someone with, you know, 10 years of experience, they'll say, hey, I want somebody that knows, you know, all these technologies under the sun. Well, that's not going to come out of a college.
Yes, exactly.
That's someone who's worked in the industry for 20 years. Exactly. So what do you hire for people coming out of the educational system? And that's the number one job out there. Yeah. People need fresh talent. They need fresh administrators that are up to date with security technologies and whatnot. And that's what we're hearing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hearing, you know, every role has to have something to do with security. They really want security plus when it comes to certs at minimum.
Yeah.
And they really want solid knowledge of server admin, desktop deployment, network admin, understanding, but they don't want, you know, a specific area. Like they would want you to have a general knowledge of key things, because every organization is different. They implement different technologies.
We have one more question that I think we'll take, but then I'll let Dan's going to really have a question or two, or wrap it up. I'm not sure, but I know that this has been an incredible talk. But we have one more student in regards to your school, your college. Are the students mostly local or international? What do the student base look like?
We have a combination of both. In my class, I don't have any international students.
Okay.
But right now in my particular class I'm teaching, but I know that we do have them, and I would say, I don't know what the percentage is, but I think most colleges today have a certain percentage of international students. Some have more than others. There's really no difference whether you're international or local.
Yes.
The courses are the same, the students are the same, the outcomes are the same, and people get a job in IT, and it's great. So, and I've actually spoken to a class that was mostly international students recently that we have inside our own college in Toronto, and it was a cybersecurity class for one of our programs, and they were great. They were wonderful, and it's a big class too.
It's this also, I mean, I'm only assuming that Trials College also moved a lot of their stuff online because of the pandemic and the fact that schools were closed.
Like, we're a very technical college. So for those who don't know, I mean, TRIOS stands for 3 operating systems.
Yes.
I mean, what those original 3 were is kind of debatable. They were like Banyan, Vines, and Microsoft and Unix, but it was, you know, Novell, Unix, and Microsoft is what you hear from people in the organization. But I mean, it was we were a large corporate trainer.
Right.
Very large corporate trainer that moved into the college space. So we have very strong corporate roots. We even had a support division as well that provided IT support to other organizations, you know, decades ago. And so we come from IT roots. And so we're always very, very early adopters of technologies. And so moving online during the pandemic was relatively easy for us, because a lot of our systems were online. I mean, even deploying operating systems inside the college was done with WDS for well over a decade, and we have really good technology all over the place. We invest a lot in technology. So yeah, and we're still teaching online. And for IT, it's actually preferred. We're seeing better student outcomes online than in the physical classroom, because you get rid of those barriers, having to wake up with coffee in the morning, and look like a zombie as you walk into class and forget 2 or 3 things. And of course, when you're learning remotely, you're using your own computer, you're using your own setup, you're making your own virtual machines and configuring your own software on your own system, breaking your own stuff.
Exactly.
And that's excellent in any IT course, no matter what the topic area is.
Well, you got to think about it. I mean, the bad guys, the hackers, are not going to your office and say, "Hey, how are you doing? I'm just going to work in here and try to hack you." No, they're from everywhere, right? So, and something very curious, and I don't know if you knew this, but there's different types of hackers, right? So there is the one hackers, the types that are social engineers, or they're trying to do social engineering types of hacks, and they usually live within the same timeline as us. So, for example, coming from Central America, South America, etc., even in the States and Canada, and they attack the person because they know that the person is working from 8 to 5, and then they're awake during the daytime, and then they sleep during the night. And then there is the technological hackers that are trying to get into systems, and those hackers are actually on the other side of the world. So basically, when you're sleeping, let's say 2 a.m, 3 a.m, 4 a.m, you're actually sleeping because it's nighttime. For them, they're actually during business hours. So that's very curious. Just I put it out there just as a little comment in terms of how hackers operate.
There's economy of scale there too, like where they sell some of the social engineering credentials they get to different groups that pay the highest price.
And that's money. Yeah, and that's crazy, because how cybersecurity IT companies and we collaborate with each other. There's big hacker groups that also collaborate between themselves, and let's not even talk about national entities that are involved in hacking, which is it's pretty huge right now with ATPs and all of that, right?
Yes, advanced persistent threats. Yes.
Yes,
the nation state hacker community that loves to get in there and wander around for a long time.
Absolutely.
Yes.
For a long time and then take action, right? We've seen a lot of that,
Absolutely.
And, I mean, you can't really prevent that. You got to have a little bit of a sense of humor when you work with technology, because you can never be 100% secure. But what you can do is you can have a plan that if something goes wrong in the worst possible scenario, that you're able to recover from it.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So I have just a couple of questions. We're going to stop questions from the public because we don't have time. We're kind of running out of time. But if I'm a student, what's next? What do I have to do? Do I contact you? Do I contact the college? Do I apply somewhere? How do I go about it?
If you want to be a student, you mean? Like
if I want to
you can just check out our website if you want to see what we offer, just like you would any other website for any college, right? You trios.com, very easy, trios.com. And you can see there's an area for technology faculties, and you'll see information technology and application development there, right? And you'll see, and cybersecurity is part of our IT programs. So it's a component of our IT programs, because the two are really inseparable, right?
Great.
You can't have one of those together.
When should they apply? Should they apply right now? So if you're listening to us and you're
if they want to start for September, check us out now. If you want
it's critical. If you want to start in September, I mean, we're already in August, so check out the website, Trios College or trios.com, and join Trios. I mean, they got great programs. Check them out. But then you have another cohort that starts
we have rolling starts, so it makes it easier to apply. So if you can't start by September for whatever reason, you can start in October, or you can start in December, or you can start in January.
Oh, really? Okay, so it's month over month. Okay, perfect.
And the way our program is scheduled is it rolls around, and so we have certain courses you have to take before others, and certain courses that you can't take before others, right? And we structure it in a way that maximizes the amount of times that you could start per year. So it's not just if you miss September, you have to wait till next year. If you miss September, you can start in October or December or January or whatever, right? And it's the same program. It's the same courses.
Great. Jason Eckert, everybody, Dean of Technologies at Trios College. Thank you so much for participating. Next show, next week, Friday, we'll have New Digital Heights with Skyjack. Christina Evans, she's a multimedia expert. So if you're in manufacturing, if you're a manufacturing company and you need to, or you want to learn more about how to go digital and make a big impact in the world, check us out, 12 o'clock on LinkedIn Live, Facebook Live, and YouTube Live, as well as our new podcast. So I hope to see you next week. And thank you, Jason, for coming on board. It was a pleasure talking to you. And I hope to see you soon.
Great. My
Thanks,
pleasure
Jason.
entirely. Take care, everyone.
Cheers.